Well, good day, everybody. I'm Chuck Todd, live from the White House, filling in for Andrea Mitchell as she heads out on assignment. BP officials now say tomorrow's planned attempt to cap that leaking oil well could be delayed. That would mean yet another day of heavy crude pouring into the Gulf and coastal wetlands. NBC's Chief Environmental Affairs correspondent Ann Thompson is live for us in Venice, Louisiana. And Ann, I guess I have to ask, this morning we were all set for the top hat to be started with perhaps early tomorrow morning. What's happened?
It's the top kill. Actually, I think, I was the AP story that comes from. I was on the same conference call this morning, and I'll be honest with you, Chuck. I mean, they seem to be fairly confident that they're going to be able to do this top kill procedure. Right now, out in the Gulf, they are doing diagnostic tests on the blowout preventer. They're looking at 5 different areas in the blowout preventer where they could shoot this drilling mud through. The key is they've got to get the pressure right, because this drilling mud has to go down through the tubes and through the blowout preventer and to the well fast enough so that it goes down through the well and not out through the riser that is leaking. That's what they're doing now. They will, after they do those tests, they will go back and redo their calculations and design exactly what they're going to do with the top kill procedure. They still hope to start it tomorrow, but it could extend for a couple of days, because once they start the top kill procedure, it is a process that literally could take days to complete. So they're saying, they hope to get it started tomorrow. If they don't, it could slide for a couple of days, but it's not as if they said they're going to, they're not going to try it tomorrow.
And how
they're just
quickly,
trying to give themselves some wiggle room.
A little wiggle room, that makes a lot of sense. How quickly will we know if the procedure is going well? I mean, obviously the best way to know is to, oh my gosh, look, there's less oil spewing out of the hole. But how quickly are they going to know, hey, you know what, this is going to work. This is going to be a huge help as they determine it in order to deal with the long-term plan, which of course is the relief well?
Well, let me answer it this way. No one is saying that it's going to be instantaneous. They could know as soon as, if they started tomorrow, they could know at the end of the day. It could take a couple of days because, again, the key is how fast can you get that drilling mud down to push down the oil and to keep it from rising up. And so that's the key thing they've got to figure out.
All right, Ann Thompson on the scene for us. And being our own reporter on this, we should know better than to be relying on a wire when we can rely on you. Shame on us. So thank you, Ann Thompson. All right, moving on. Earlier, I spoke with Carol Browner, the president's director of energy and climate change policy, and I began by asking her to respond to these quotes from former Interior Secretary Bruce Babbitt.
Well, they're clearly mixing their messages. I mean, each day there's a new spokesman and a new cabinet secretary, Carol Browner, Admiral Allen, Lisa Jackson. You really wonder who's in charge. The sad fact is that the government lacks the ability to direct this problem. The oil industry historically has been self-regulating. It's a technical engineering job, and I think credibility would be enhanced if the federal officials would say, look, for better or for worse, we're here as a product of history, and we don't have the capacity to oversee the technical job of shutting this well down.
Now, it seems Secretary Babbitt's 2 charges are, 1, there's been too many people speaking for the administration, and that has led to sort of this perception problem. And then 2, that the administration won't just say, look, our hands are tied, we're stuck with BP for better or for worse. What say you?
Well, I think the Secretary makes a very valid point, which is that we're living with a law that's 20 years old. We've asked Congress to update that law. In the meantime, we are focused on getting this well shut down. That doesn't mean we're relying on BP, but obviously they have the technical know-how. They know how to run the robots. They know how to run the vessels. But we've got Secretary Chu and all of our national lab experts down there today as they go through this effort beginning tomorrow, and we're going to stay on top of this until the well is shut down.
But the critique, I guess, of the idea, should there really only be one person speaking, and does maybe BP not sure who they're supposed to respond to? For instance, yesterday, Secretary Salazar, very tough on BP. Admiral Allen said, well, who would you replace them with? that does send a mixed message to BP publicly.
Well, I think the Admiral was saying, look, they have the expertise, and we need that expertise if we're going to get this thing shut down. It doesn't mean we're relying on them. It doesn't mean we're not directing them. Look, everyone is hugely frustrated. A huge sense of urgency. We need to get this done. Yes, there are a lot of people involved, but we're bringing all of our resources to bear. This may well be one of the worst environmental disasters ever, and it's sort of all hands on deck mentality, and I think that's important. I think the American people want to know that their government is doing everything in their power.
A couple other things to update on. One is, has we hear any word from the Army Corps of Engineers? I know as of this morning, they were folks in Louisiana were expecting either thumbs up or thumb down from the Army Corps of Engineers on this idea of building this, I guess it's a berm, sort of a system of canals down there. What do we know from the Army?
Governor Jindal raised this issue. He's raised it with the president yesterday in the governor's call that I was on. We have been working with all of the states to honor their plans. Sure. They have in place plans, response plans. We've been honoring those. He's put a new idea on the table. We're looking at it. We're taking it seriously. As you mentioned, the Corps is looking at it. I do think it's important to note by the governor's own people, they estimate that doing these berms could take from 6 to 9 months. And
Admiral Allen said this, so it seemed to me he was hinting at, as this sounds good on paper, but realistically it may not accomplish a lot.
Right, well, we need to determine that, and so we need to look at all of the facts, and we are doing that, and we will do that, and they will get an answer. But we want to make sure that we're doing those things that provide these communities relief as quickly as possible.
What do we know about this? Obviously, the EPA and Lisa Jackson said that she was concerned about the amount of this dispersant that's being used. It was approved for use, but there's a concern about too much. How do we know? Are we doing some sort of testing to find out? So walk us through that.
Yeah, so what Lisa Jackson raised concerns about a particular dispersant. There was a meeting with BP officials and others. At the conclusion of that, Administrator Jackson directed BP to use less of the dispersant while EPA continues to monitor the situation, and equally important, determine whether or not there is an alternative dispersant that can be used. It turns out that there may not be as much of this manufactured as people had once thought. The dispersant is important. It is helping to break up the oil, but obviously we want to make sure that we have all of the information and it's as safe as possible.
In fact, you bring up an interesting point. Do we have enough boom in this country? And you say that we might not have enough dispersant. I mean, do we have all of the materials we need? We just have to get it physically down to the Gulf, or is there stuff that has to be manufactured immediately?
Well, what's happening is all of the governor's priorities are being made. Governors prioritize what's the most sensitive area to be protected. The booms are going out. We have the Coast Guard has directed almost 2 million feet of containment boom, which has been deployed. Almost a million feet of absorbent boom, which has been deployed, and we have 17 staging areas. So the boom is moving. If more of it needs to be manufactured, more of it will be manufactured.
So we have enough so far. There isn't this sense that we're running out or we're getting concerned.
We will not run out. We will not run out.
All right. Now let's talk about legislation here. One of the other things Secretary Babbitt implied is that this moratorium on more oil drilling may last longer than anybody realizes because there isn't a good fail-safe yet. Is that your expectation that it may be years before new permits are issued by the federal government rather than maybe months?
Well, what we need to do is look at we have 3 studies underway, and we need to get the results to make the important decisions.
One is that 30-day study.
One is the 30-day, which will be presented to the president on Thursday.
Okay.
And then we have the National Academy of Engineering, which is taking an independent look. And then
when does that one due?
I don't know the date on that.
Okay.
And then we have the commission, which the president appointed. We announced the co-chairs, former Senator Bob Graham, former governor of the state of Florida, and former EPA Administrator Bill Riley, and they are to report back in 6 months. There will be additional commissioners named in the not-too-distant future.
And how is this commission funded? Did they get all the money that they need? How much staff are they going to be allowed to hire? Are they going to be able to do their own separate investigations?
Yes,
Can you quickly walk us through
it is an independent commission, and they will have adequate funds, and they will have independent staffing. There will be an independent executive director and whatever staffing is appropriate.
And are we going to see this up and running? The expectation is by when?
The expectation is very quickly. Obviously, as I said, we've announced the co-chairs. We will be announcing rest of the members in the not-too-distant future, and they will be up and operating.
When are you headed back down to the Gulf?
Soon, I hope.
Okay.
All right, that was